Hey, Dr. Mike here. So if you want to live foreverish, you have to know what's in and what's not. Stay tuned to find out.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, welcome to Live Foreverish. This is our favorite popular in and out show, Dr. Crystal.
Yes, it's becoming popular with our listeners as
It
well.
is. Yeah.
I think they like having the bite-sized snippets of information on different topics.
Keep it moving. That's the way we are today. Keep it moving. So 3 N's. These are the things you want to do to live foreverish, which is long, strong, vibrant health spans.
That's right.
Right? And then 1 out. So let's get right to it. In number 1, Resveratrol. But for vascular cognitive impairment, very interesting. What do we have here?
Yeah, we know that vascular cognitive impairment or many memory issues relate to not getting enough blood flow to the brain.
Vascular dementias. We forget there's a whole category.
Yes, and it relates to cardiovascular health, right?
Yeah.
We need to keep those blood vessels nice and clear. And so in this study, they identified 79 older patients with carotid artery stenosis or occlusion. You want to tell them about the carotid artery, where that's going?
Sure. So, well, it comes right from the aorta. These are the arteries in your neck, right? Mm-hmm. And they go right up into your brain, and that's this is your blood highway for your brain.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yes.
So you don't want that occluded.
Definitely not.
It's a pretty important highway.
I can imagine that if there are occlusions, you are likely to have some cognitive impairment because you're not getting, that blood and the oxygen and the nutrients to the brain. So these individuals, they were asymptomatic with stenosis or kind of that occlusion or the blockages up to greater than 50%. And these individuals had undergone imaging and neurological tests. Right. And some of the patients, after their first neurological tests were administered or were prescribed 30 milligrams of resveratrol. And there were a group of people who were not given that resveratrol. And so what the researchers did, they kind of took a look back and say, okay, let's examine the memory and let's examine just overall health of those individuals who had received that 30 milligrams of resveratrol. And so the follow-up for this, it's nice because they used it long-term. The average follow-up period was 221 days.
That's good. Very
long time. On the non-resveratrol group, average follow-up was about 245 days. And so the results, they saw improvements in blood pressure, specifically systolic blood pressure, and blood glucose in the resveratrol group. And these values increased in the group who were not administered that resveratrol during that time period.
That's pretty good. I see here, too, that I guess they were looking at blood flow to the brain and stuff, and it looked like that also improved.
Yes.
In the resveratrol group. Yeah. Look at that. I mean, again, one of these wonderful things, when you see a simple nutrient.
I know.
Doing so much. The dose seems a little low to me, right? 30 milligrams a day.
That is low compared to what you kind of see now.
Yeah.
And this was not any special, unique preparation of resveratrol, just 30 milligrams a day.
See, when I see that, where I get excited, I'm like, imagine the results you could have if they did a higher dose, which is what most people are doing, right?
Yes.
I think you'd even see better stuff. All right, so that's in number 1, resveratrol. In number 2, one of my favorites, taurine, specifically for metabolic, syndrome. Taurine. It's not a building block for protein, but it's an abundant protein and found in a lot of animals across the board, but not found in plants, right? Isn't that right?
Right, yeah, which makes it a nutrient, especially if you're a vegan or vegetarian.
You gotta watch it.
You need to make sure that you are maybe adding it in. That's what I would suggest. It's an add-in. It's one of those things that you want to make sure you're getting this amino acid. Now, it can be made from cysteine. So, there's amino acids
there's a pathway
in plants,
for it.
right,
Yeah.
that will provide a precursor amino acid for taurine. But we do know that production of taurine declines as we get older.
Yeah, I mean, when you're asking the body to continue to do these conversions, it like anything else, it just is not as efficient.
Yes.
That's all.
And so we typically think of taurine for, aging, longevity.
Aging, but I think heart is really the number one, right?
People think about heart, energy production, exercise performance. You find it in a lot of your energy drinks.
Yeah.
And so this was a systematic meta-analysis of randomized control trials. 25 were included in the study.
That's pretty good.
With over 1,000 participants total. And they were kind of looking at the metabolic syndrome.
Those things that you have to have, right? Real quick. Abdominal obesity, waist circumference high blood pressure, high fasting glucose, high triglycerides, and a low level of HDL.
Yeah, and you don't have to have all of them.
Yeah, it's just And when you, as a doctor, when you just see that, you just you start seeing that pattern.
Yes,
they'll call that a metabolic pattern, basically.
Absolutely. So in the studies, just to give you all some dosing, the doses range from 0.5 grams up to 6 grams per day in the study. So a pretty big range of dosing.
5 to 6 grams per day is kind of what I usually say. So there was some that were, again, underdosed a little bit, maybe.
Well, I would say, you do find, I usually start at about 1,000, like minimum, if you're going to add it in. So yes, it was definitely a little underdosed, and the participants. One thing: the studies, the time frame for those studies were short as 5 days to as long as a year.
5 days?
As short as 5 days. So when you look at the 25 studies that were included, some of those studies, you have as short as 5 days.
Yeah.
A study would have been as short as 5 days, and then up to a year. So we do see,
Interesting. Well, those shorter studies, because, again, with meta-analysis, you're pulling all this together and coming up with results. But they must have been, I wonder what those shorter days kind of showed. Like, were they as significant as a longer intake of taurine, et cetera?
Yeah, you
would expect it.
You would expect it, and a lot of the ingredients in your energy drinks are designed to work relatively for you to feel it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So compared to control groups, the taurine supplementation demonstrated statistically significant reductions in a variety of those metabolic risk factors.
I'm seeing them all right here. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, blood pressure, systolic and diastolic, so both of those numbers, fasting blood glucose, and triglycerides. And the researchers pointed out that the blood sugar benefit was dose dependent, meaning
the higher, the more. Yeah,
exactly. As well as the diastolic blood pressure.
Right. That's great. Again, this is a very simple protein, so important for your body. Yeah. And now we have evidence beyond performance, beyond exercise, beyond the heart, for metabolic syndrome, which, by the way, affects a lot of people in this country.
Very true.
All right. Awesome. Try some taurine. Let's move on to number 3. This is in number 3 for Living Foreverish, cinnamon.
I love cinnamon. It's one of my favorite spices, Dr. Mike.
Cinnamon.
It can make anything taste better.
Yeah. It has to be, for me, it has to be the right amount. Some people, you can overdo cinnamon, and then all you taste is cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm not. A lot of people don't know that, it's part of the bark of the tree, right?
Yeah, it's the inner bark. I show my kids because I have the cinnamon sticks at home as well as the regular cinnamon. And just last week we had this whole conversation. They were just blown away. You mean we're eating trees?
It's so cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
They loved it.
My understanding is that you shave that inner bark and then you dry it. As it dries, it naturally curls.
Curls into those sticks.
Yeah. So they're not actually forming those sticks. It's natural.
Yeah. It's just kind of like if you shave, you know this, if you shave a block of cheese and it kind of curls.
It curls a little bit, yeah. You know why, okay, tangent.
Uh-oh.
You know why you want to see that with
done?
cheese. Because I always got to tell people, most cheeses across the board should be served at room temperature. So when you slice it that way, it should be more flexible and curl. If it doesn't, it's too cold.
Dr. Mike's fun facts.
That was some
The
cheese
resident cheese expert.
All right, so what's going on with cinnamon? We already know cinnamon's good for blood sugar levels.
We do that, as well as weight. You know, that's kind of the claim to fame for cinnamon. That's why many people like to add it in to their routine to help manage blood sugar. So, we just wanted to highlight a couple of studies. There is a 2024 study that I think is pretty amazing.
Well, the first one that I have here, what I find interesting about it, it's a way to design a study that you do not see that often, because it takes a lot more work to get it done, and that's known as a triple blind study.
No one knows.
No, so normally in a double blind, the person taking it doesn't know, the person giving it doesn't know, but the analyzer of the data knows.
Yes.
But when you blind the analyzer, basically, why would you do that? Because you're just bringing bias as low as you can bring down, right?
Yes.
You don't want bias coming into these kind of results. So you're doing your best to blind everybody. You just don't see they're more costly. They're hard to manage. So that was interesting. So this was a randomized triple-blind placebo-controlled trial in type 2 diabetics taking medicines for diabetes, right? And they were given either 3 grams of cinnamon powder or a placebo. And after 90 days, those taking the cinnamon had a statistically significant reduction in glycolated hemoglobin.
Yeah.
That's your glycation reaction. You want
That's
that
right.
low, and fasting glucose compared to placebo. So
that's nice. And that 3 grams
cinnamon.
is about 1.2 teaspoons, so not much.
Not much. A perfect amount for food. According to Dr. Crystal, it's not enough.
I think maybe that's enough for my yogurt.
Let me ask you this, though. So in supplement form, and I know you want to go over that 2024 study, but real quick, in if I'm remembering this right, if you're going to take cinnamon in the supplement form, you want to make sure the oils are removed and it's just the more water-based compounds. Isn't there something like that?
So there is, yes. So
Do you remember? Am I putting you on the spot?
No, yeah, a little bit, but I think I can manage it. So there are some oil-soluble components that may have an impact on blood pressure. Okay. So you do find that, yes, water-soluble extracts are available.
More common. Okay.
But in all of these studies, they were using just regular cinnamon.
Okay, sure. Okay.
And I do see both.
Yeah. I just remember
available.
that. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the 2024 study.
Yeah, okay. Let's jump
cinnamon.
ahead.
Let's go.
Jump ahead to that 2024 study. Where
Let's
is
get
it?
to it. It's right there. It's right in front of you.
No, I'm trying to find it on my paper. Okay, we're back together. So this was
anywhere.
Small randomized controlled trial. Only 18 participants, but it was a crossover. So
we like those. That basically doubles everything. I mean, in a sense, because you're your own placebo.
That's right.
So I mean, I guess technically, data people wouldn't say that, but we're not data people, so we can say it.
So the average age, 51 years old. These individuals were with obesity, pre-diabetics, and there was a 10-week intervention with 4 grams of cinnamon. So 2 grams with breakfast, 2 grams with dinner, or placebo.
Now, is this extract or is this?
This is cinnamon.
Shaving the cinnamon.
Regular old cinnamon. And so this was the 4 weeks with the cinnamon, 2-week washout, followed by 4 weeks without the cinnamon.
Right.
So
There's your crossover part.
Yeah, each individual now I can say, okay, when I had the cinnamon, this is what happened.
And when I was off it.
This is what happened. The other beautiful thing about this study, Dr. Mike, was the participants had the continuous glucose monitors.
Oh, see, that's changing everything, isn't it?
Game changer.
Because
changer.
now that is allowing for instant, continuous measurement, and as long as those devices they're using are good and approved, right?
Right.
That's fabulous data.
I think so. So the results, the 24-hour glucose levels were significantly lower during the cinnamon consumption phases compared to placebo.
As were glucose peaks, it says too.
Yeah. So
Did I just take that away from you?
Excursions. He doesn't like that I call them the glucose.
I never said I didn't like that.
But those are those after meal glucose spikes that are problematic even if you're not diabetic.
Yeah. If you think about it, if you're eating a certain kind of diet, right, where every time you eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you spike, and you do that year after year, that spiking is leading to insulin resistance.
Yes, it is.
That's the hallmark of type 2 diabetes.
Yep. So yeah, the cinnamon was well tolerated and beneficial. So
yep, cinnamon.
I like that.
Where do you like to put it on? Because most people will say, "Oh, cinnamon toast."
Whoa, I used to do that growing up when my mom wouldn't buy cinnamon rolls. I would make my own little homemade cinnamon roll on the wheat toast. But now I like cinnamon in my oatmeal. I have cottage cheese, bananas, nuts, always cinnamon. If I do yogurt, fruit, nuts, always cinnamon.
I could see it on yogurt. I could do that.
Cinnamon in my coffee. I learned that from...
I've had that.
Yeah.
I've had that
good.
before. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. And I love any type of kind of spiced cinnamon tea, like the chai tea where you have the spices. Yeah, I like cinnamon.
I'm trying to figure out where I had that cinnamon coffee for. I want to say I was in Mexico.
Cinnamon in my chia pudding.
Is it I'm still on the coffee. Is this
it's the Mexican coffee.
Yeah, I was in Mexico when I tried that for the first time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cinnamon, get some. Yeah. Load it up. Because according to Dr. Crystal, you can't do enough. All right. Those are 3 ins. Yes. There you go. Living Foreverish.
Controlling blood sugar, cognitive support, memory, metabolic syndrome. You don't want that if you want to live forever.
That all stuff is not good. Now we have an out, and now sometimes our outs are we pick sometimes just what's kind of what we find kind of cool, what's out there. We find a decent study, right? So this out for me is very interesting, and it's jet lag.
Yeah.
Now. I've experienced severe jet lag in my life. It was the whole Philippine trip I used to do. Woo! When I got back here, coming back east, it was horrible.
So would you just feel like you're walking in a daze?
Well, I'm gonna get into that. Yeah, basically, it's a brain fog. It's brain fog.
Yeah.
And for like 2 or 3 days, you're just kind of like you just sit there.
Yeah.
You don't want to move. And what's interesting. It's not like I want to take a nap tired. It's more just like I'm just going to sit here. I don't know how to explain it. That's what it was for me. All right. So why are we talking about it here?
Well, the study. It's a 2024 study looking at a French maritime pine bark.
Ooh, we like that.
We have talked about this pine bark on many episodes. Yeah. I think we had an episode all about this pine bark.
We've had experts.
We have.
French, in pine bark. Specifically, French maritime pine. That's the key.
Yes, it's a proprietary form that has a unique kind of composition of active constituents or active components from that pine bark. So, of course, when I see that, I jump on it. Okay, what are we talking about with pine bark?
Well, I haven't really looked at this one yet.
Okay.
I'm going to take a guess on why. I'm going to take a guess that pine bark, French maritime pine bark works for jet lag, reduces it, And I'm going to give you my theory without looking at anything.
Okay.
It increases blood flow to the brain during the flight. So that's about as much as I can say.
Okay. So, yes, the proposed mechanism of action that I'm quoting this from the researchers, appears to be related to during your flight, you do have decreases in blood flow.
I nailed it.
You have
Robson nailed it.
Peripheral edema. And so that's why they, in this research, there was, your post-flight analysis, but they provided the pine bark 48 hours before the flight.
Oh, so that's something to remember for sure.
That is something to remember. The participants were people who fly a lot, flight professionals,
Pilots,
frequent flyers, the pilots. The participants also wore the stockings, the compression,
because that helps.
stockings.
That helps to move that blood up and stuff like that. Yep.
Yes. And let's see what other details. The flights were eastbound flights, averaging about 10 to 12 hours with those flights, and the dose of the pine bark was 150 milligrams per day. So they
48 hours before a flight, take your pine bark, and then 12 hours after an eastbound flight, look at these parameters.
So they started this. No, they continued the pine bark, but they started it at least 2 days before the flight.
Right, 2 days. Mm-hmm. But then they started looking at the results within 12 hours after the end of the eastbound flight. Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there were the common jet lag symptoms that they looked at, with like the brain fog,
all that stuff,
headaches, disorientation, nausea, insomnia,
irritability. That's a big one.
Yeah. So there's an assessment where you can just kind of look at all of those common symptoms and then rate them.
Yep.
And
so overall, everything improved for these people, right?
Yes. Post-flight, those scores of all of those were improved compared to the control group. And it's just, we like this pine bark. I take it before I fly.
Well, I take it every day anyways.
Oh, yeah, I don't take it.
I do it because I know I'm really big into its arterial protection, blood flow for the coronary artery. So I've been taking it for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, but the one thing we wanted to, I guess to bring it full circle, is after the flight, the average scores for the cognitive function test were significantly higher in the group that took the pine bark. Yeah. So, it's more than just about being able to get to sleep. We like melatonin for jet lag to help you sleep. But there are other things that's going on that relate to those symptoms.
So blood flow is an issue. We know hydration is an issue. You got to stay hydrated on flights, and not with alcohol. With water.
Maybe that's why you're dehydrated.
Yeah, right. With water. And so this adds just another tool. If you're one of those travelers who are out all the time, business, whatever,
especially
pilots,
eastbound.
Whatever. Yeah, listen, this is great. Pine bark extract, wonderful. French maritime pine bark extract. There you go. 3 ins and an out to living forever-ish. Again, fantastic information. Don't forget, you can go to liveforeverish.com where we have tons of other podcasts you can download, like, and share. Go ahead and subscribe so you never miss a show. Just makes sense, right? Plus, our sponsor, Life Extension, wants to say thank you. So go to lifeextension.com, purchase something, and at checkout, put the discount code podcast. And you will get 10% off, $50 or more, plus free shipping and handling. Just put in podcast. I'm Dr. Mike. That's
Dr. Crystal.
Thanks for listening.